Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for now. And I'm choosing to read for now for a number of reasons. I'm going to lay them out for you here, just in case you haven't seen any of the other videos in this round. First reason is because I am under some pretty severe cognitive load at the moment, and honestly, I'd rather show up with something smaller than usual than not at all. So here I am, I'm here with what I can do at the moment. As a result, the video is going to be a bit shorter than you're used to. It's going to have a little bit more structure than you're used to too. The second reason why I'm doing this is because with this much chaotic energy around at the moment, Neptune is in Aries, Saturn is in Aries. We've got coming off the back of a pretty big solar eclipse, square Uranus. With all of this foggy stuff around at the moment, I don't think there is a use case for looking ahead to see what's coming. I think that takes your attention away from the now, what is right in front of you. And with this level of fog around us, I can't in good conscience make a video where we're looking ahead at the month ahead, because things are chaotic, right? So to that end, what we're going to do is we're going to pull 3 cards to see where you are right now. I think this is important because if we're trying to work out what the next step is, and only taking that next step, and then making sure all of us has arrived there before we take the next step, it's useful to know where we are in the first place. So we'll have a look at that, see how you're coping. I actually have to say I'm pretty heartened by what I've seen of all the signs so far. Everybody seems to be in an intense place, but they're managing, and I like that a lot. The second set of cards that we're going to look at is how to navigate through the uncertainty. Now, there are 1 or 2 signs, interestingly, who are not uncertain at all, right? Definitely operating in uncertain times, but they're leaning into something that's navigating from here, and so actually they're doing okay. But, we'll look at how it's showing up for you. And the final thing to look at, thing that I think is dear to the hearts of some Scorpios, or dear at least to the stereotype of the Scorpio, or the archetype of Scorpio, that's a better way to put it, is what stories are ending, right? What narratives are coming to conclusion? What situations, circumstances that you're involved in, which ones of those are actually ending at this point? And the reason for this is because we cannot have new beginnings on the scale of what is coming in 2026 without there being a considerable amount that is also cleared out of the way. And when everything is really chaotic, it's really difficult to know what we're supposed to be letting go of and what actually we should be holding on to. So the idea with that is to try and give ourselves an idea that when these things come up and they look like they're trying to get away from us, we can just go, okay, right, and let that go. Let the space be created. There will be an extended. In the extended, we'll follow a similar sort of structured format, but we'll be looking specifically at shadow traps or potential pitfalls that might show up around this time. I always think it's useful to know. I think if you're self-aware, these things will probably be showing up for you anyway. And the idea is not to go around them. We can't circumvent anything, particularly if it's shadow related. The best way is to integrate, to work with it, and then move beyond. So we'll be looking at that, looking at some advice to navigate through that. We'll also be pulling an oracle card from this deck here. I don't use oracle cards very much, but I really rate this one. This is the Spiral Oracle from Lily Acuna. It's a solid deck there, and I've been really, really impressed with the messages it's been bringing in. So anyway, that's for the extended. The link for that will be in the description box below when you're ready, if you're ready to go have a look at that. So let's just flip this camera around here and start with where you are right now. Where is Scorpio right now, please? Whoa. Queen of Wands. Do you know she's been making quite the appearance for a lot of signs? I mean, it makes sense, right? We've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and this for me is an Aries card, so it makes sense. We have the Hanged Man coming out sideways. Interesting. And we have a shit ton of cards that have just fallen on the floor, so let me get those. We have the Devil, and we have the 9 of Swords. I'll be clear, Scorpio. I don't think that these belong to you, but let's wait until we've got the rest of the cards out and we'll see where we go with that. I'll straighten all this up in a minute. How about how to move through the uncertainty, right? Well, we've got, oh goodness, we've got cards flying out everywhere. We have the Sun, we have the Queen of Swords, we have the Two of Cups, all three of those on their side, and the Eight of Wands showing up like that. Right, and then finally, let's have a look and see what story is done, what narratives are finished, what set of circumstances are finished. I mean, different for each of you, but thematically there should be something that you can follow through this. What's finished for Scorpio? Interesting. We've got the Judgment card coming out with the Knight of Wands. Three of Swords. Completed. Love it. And we've got the Hierophant reversed. Eight of Swords is now the card that's at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Eight of Swords for me is actually a card I'm delighted to see whenever it shows up, because it is the problem and the solution in one card. The problem is we feel stuck, we feel trapped, we don't know where we are, we don't know what we're doing. We're quite literally waiting for someone to save us. And I think the problem with the Eight of Swords is we'll be waiting a long time, because this cage that the woman is sitting in, made of swords, here is one that's been forged by her own mind. Now, the reason that the solution is contained in this card as well is because, well, the swords are in her own mind, right? So we've got a way in which we are able to navigate out of it if we simply follow the advice of the card, which is to step back and test all assumptions, right? Whatever has led us to this mental cul-de-sac where we're now stuck and we're kind of spinning around and we can't find a way to get out, what we have to do is go back and test assumptions about things. It's funny, there's an erraticism about the energies that are showing up here, Scorpio, which I think is quite interesting. I'm still not entirely clear whether the Nine of Swords, Devil, and Eight of Swords is yours. I don't think so. I'm going to put some clarifiers for that in a second. I was trying to get away without doing that, but I think that we should. The reason that I'm sort of on the fence about it is because of this Queen of Wands here. And the Queen of Wands is a heightened visibility. You can see here she's kind of lighting her own way with the torch that she's got in her hand. It's the Ace of Wands, right? She's lighting up the air around her, the space around her. And I think probably to some extent you are aware that this is a one step at a time kind of process, right? But then she's not giving any sense of being stuck or trapped in her own mind when she has it at her disposal. You know, this Ace of Wands right here. But this Hangman on its side is really interesting, because this is, it's a hovering energy anyway. When it shows up in the upright, it's suspended in a state of discomfort, right? And the idea is that we're looking at things from a different perspective in the only way that we can, which is to literally hang ourselves upside down, right? He's in the process of doing that, although he hasn't quite managed it yet. For me, when this card shows up in the reverse, we've hung upside down for long enough. We've been uncomfortable for long enough. Now we can get down, right? We've achieved what we set out to achieve. We've got some degree of enlightenment. We see the whole situation from a different perspective, and now we can get down. That energy there, sideways, is kind of hovering too. It's a hovering of the hovering. Now, is it time to get down, or is it time to get up and suspend yourself from the tree? It's not entirely clear. And until I work out whether this is you or whether this is people around you, like the kind of like the environment that you're dealing with people, it's difficult to say what this is all about. What about these? Is this Scorpio or someone else? Right, we've got the Strength card in the upright. We've got the Two of Swords in reverse. I think this is other people, right? And I think that because the Queen of Wands has also appeared at the bottom of the deck again here, illuminating the internal way. For me, the Queens are the internal subjective experience of whatever suit they represent, right? So when in the case of the Queen of Wands, it's examining motivations, it's examining drive. Why do I do the things that I do? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why will I do the things that I am intending to do, right? That seems to me to be quite a state of clarity. Then we've got the Strength card, and we've got the Two of Swords. And Two of Swords is in the reverse, which speaks to me of things that are seen. Actually, things that are seen that can't be unseen. There's no sense of anything being hidden away from us anymore, and particularly not by the contents of our own mind, which stands in stark contradiction to the energies that I'm seeing here, which leads me to believe that this is people around you. This Hanged Man on its side feels now a little bit more like you're in the process of getting down from the tree. Like there's a due diligence that's been done with one's internal state. There is growth happening. There is clarity of some sort coming. But the people that you find yourself surrounded by are Nine of Swords, Devil, and Eight of Swords like. And so then the question is posited. To what extent are you responsible in helping people alleviate themselves from these kinds of energies? Because I don't think, really, any of us like to see other people suffering. But when the suffering is of their own creation, I think it becomes a different thing altogether. You know, the Nine of Swords is a loss of perspective. The Hanged Man is in of itself a card of trying to regain a perspective or gain an additional one, right? The Nine of Swords represents somebody who has let their mind take over. Someone who feels trapped by circumstances. Depressions sometimes are indicated by particularly these together. I mean, this could be as bad as you know, psychiatric illness. But the fact remains, the people around you are following a path, Eight of Swords to Nine of Swords, stopping short at the Ten of Swords, which would be the cognitive crisis of I need to test my assumptions, I need to check how my whole brain is working because I've reached the limits of my cognition at this point. I need to do something else. But the Devil's interrupting that. That stuck, restricted, trapped energy is stopping that, just as we see underneath here. And I feel with the Queen of Wands, like, you know, you've had your own internal processes clicking over, right? So Scorpio is always thinking about something, always trying to work something out. And I feel like there's a hesitation here in sharing what you know. It feels like part of you is pulling in one direction, that's saying you've got a duty to share what you see, what you feel, what's going on in here with other people so that you can help them get through this. But by the same token, there's a bit of you that is resisting, that's saying it's not actually my place. Sometimes in trying to give people all of the answers, we deprive them of the opportunity of reaching them in their own time, right, in their own way. And you feel like you're hovering between these two states, because we don't like to see people stuck and, you know, feeling stuck and trapped and all that kind of thing. But are you even really at a point where you can hold up a torch and say, come this way with me, and people would actually listen? I think not. I think the cards are suggesting not. And so there's something painful about having to stand there and watch people go through this when you know that actually it could be avoidable. I'm looking for another time. I'm going to use this pagan otherworlds here. It's interesting because who was it? Sagittarius and Gemini also had thematically similar readings. It was that taking a step back and not interfering. I think I referred to it as the, you know, observing the prime directive when I was talking to Sagittarius. It's kind of like you can't interfere with the evolution of somebody in front of you, even if they are in a state of suffering, and particularly not if it's of their own creation, right? Which is definitely what we're talking about when we're looking at the Eight of Swords. Tell me about this Nine of Swords and Devil, please. Yeah. See, the Two of Swords is flying out on its side. Now, there are things here that you readily understand. People are very, very slowly working their way around to it themselves. Ten of Wands at the bottom of the deck. It's hard work. You know how much hard work it is. But in trying to save them from that hard work and trying to save them from the suffering, all you really do is actually protract this process, because they never reach the Ten of Swords on their own. They never work out how to replace or how to move through the energy of the Ten of Wands into the Ace of Wands. This is hard, Scorpio. It's really hard. It's almost like you're watching people flailing around in their own bullshit, and you're like, for fuck's sake, like this could... If they would just get it, if they would just see. King of Swords, Four of Swords. The problem is that that's not your information to impart, almost. It kind of is, but it's not, right? The Four of Swords is about taking a break. It's about taking a step back. To some extent, sometimes it's a tactical or strategic retreat. We don't have action per se with the Queens. We have the subjective feminine aspect of that, right? So it tends to be more passive, and it tends to stand still a little bit more, because there's a lot of internal processing going on when the Queens show up. But of all of the Queens, I do feel like the Queen of Wands is the one who is most likely to move around, unlike the other. It's one of the ways in which this Queen is distinguished from others, and she's shown up twice. And it's almost like the best you can do at this time is to light the torch and wait and see who shows up. It's not actually for you to impart the information that people need to come to in their own time. I've been talking quite a lot about ontological shock right recently, and just how destabilizing it's going to be for people when they realize that reality isn't what they thought it was. And, you know, you could look to certain things that are going on in the news at the moment. People are like, my goodness, you know, and in fact, I said in the messages from Aquarius season, like, we're all going to be sitting there going, fuck, didn't realize it was that bad. And, you know, there's a very specific thing that I'm referencing here when I'm talking about it, but actually it's across the board with all sorts of things. I'm talking about particular document releases, right? I'll point out that video came out way before those things were released. But it certainly seems to be a dominant kind of reaction at the moment, is had no idea it was that bad. And that's what I said in that video. But this really is just the outer skin of the onion. You know, whether we're talking about those documents and that release, or whether we're talking about everything else. And I think it's the everything else that is really going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back with a lot of people, because humans should be fluid and flexible and all sorts of things, but in order for us to move around, there has to be a certain level of stability that we work within, right? Now, what's really interesting to me is that although you're a fixed sign, so you represent a different kind of energy to Sagittarius and Gemini, who are both mutable signs, double-bodied signs, right? They govern the transition from season to season. But also light to dark and dark to light and all that sort of thing, right? So there's an inherent duality in both of those signs, which makes it easier for them to navigate between states. You don't have that. But as a Scorpio, you do watch things break down and decay, right? So there is an innate understanding in Scorpio that all things will end. There's also an innate understanding that new things will begin, I feel, although sometimes it takes Scorpio a little while to work that one out, right? It feels like everything's quite heavy a lot of the time. Now, between you three signs, there seems to be an understanding of what is happening out there in the world, an understanding of how people are responding to it, and also a kind of don't interfere with the evolution of people principle that you are holding to at the moment. Because the things that you can carry within you, and that Gemini can carry within them, and Sagittarius can carry within them, is more than your average person could tolerate, I think. Now, obviously, spiritually evolved other signs too are also carrying some degree of this. But this message has been very specific for you three. People are not ready for the sort of things that you have in your head, the kind of things that you're carrying around. And you need not to be the person who is depositing those things into their head. They need to work it out themselves. You're not the one who is to be solving issues for them either. They've got to work that out for themselves. The best you can do, the best that you should do, is simply to light that torch and wait for now. Because I think that people will come seek you out when they are ready to delve a little bit deeper. But most people are kind of oscillating around these states right here. So when we come down here, the question of how to move through the uncertainty is a little less important to answer for you than it is rather in knowing how to assist others moving through the uncertainty, right? Because there's no sense here that you just got all of the answers and so you know what's going on and you don't have to worry about anything, right? But you have a tool set that other people don't have. You also have the ability to exist in the darker part of life and to a lesser or greater degree be affected by that. But I think personal work has made you much stronger in that regard. So the question is, what do you do? What I'm saying is, there's plenty that's uncertain for you, but you're holding that a lot more lightly than the people around you. You can hold that more lightly than the people around you. So where the uncertainty exists, and for you it seems more oriented around, should I say things to people, should I not say things to people, should I confirm their darkest fears are correct, do I confirm their fears full stop are correct, or does that send them spiraling, or does that give them a bit of grist to the mill to start moving upwards and outwards? It's going to depend on the person that you're dealing with, Scorpio, is the honest answer. So one must be careful to make sure that we're not creating a monolithic response to humanity en masse, but curating that for the mind that is there and curious. And I think that's probably the thing. If people are coming to you and they are curious, if people are coming to you and asking you a question, if people are coming to you and asking for your perspective, then that's one thing. But kind of wanting to get in there and feed them the information that you think that they need, either to solve their problems or to contextualize all sorts of things. I wouldn't touch that with somebody else's barge pole, Scorpio, right? So we've got the sun appearing here on its side. And the sun is a card of Leo, and it's one of those cards that actually, it's a bit like the Wheel of Fortune, like that. Whether it shows up or in the reverse or in the upright, because of the circular nature of what it represents, it doesn't flip from positive to negative or back again. It's an illumination. Just as we've had an illumination over here, we've got an illumination over here, but it's like the old, what's her name? Emily Dickinson? Tell the whole truth, but tell it slant. Like, the idea being that most people can't take the full force of truth in one go. You got to feed it to them little bit by little bit, right? Because the consciousness has to keep evolving up to be able to tolerate the next level of truth, the next level of insight, the next level of whatever it is, right? And here, with this Queen of Swords on her side as well, she's all about truth testing. And these two cards here together put me in mind of that quote from I'm going to say it was Nietzsche, actually. Fucking my boy Nietzsche, I love him. Something along the lines of, the strength of someone's character is directly proportional to the amount of truth they can tolerate about themselves. I'm sure I might have mangled it a little bit, but it's something along those lines, right? And here's the thing. People like you who've been working on themselves, facing their shadow, integrating their shadow, removing their triggers, you've been doing this for years. You've been working on this hard for years. And seemingly for little benefit other than trying to just show up in a non-reactive fashion, right? Trying to enjoy being sitting in your own skin a little bit more than you were. But in all honesty, I feel like that has been training, and it's been training for the things that happened this year. Because I wrote what I called a guardrail protocol, right, for kind of thriving through 2026. And it was, as I was creating it, it struck me how similar it was to the kind of things that we've been trying to train out of ourselves for the longest time. So we're unpicking the conditioning and training ourselves to be non-reactive, but instead be responsive or proactive, right? It was almost like the manifesto of personal work. And so the link isn't lost on me. It's training, and it's been training for now. Correspondingly, the amount of truth that you can tolerate about yourself, Scorpio, is considerably higher than the average person. And you have to bear in mind that the average person cannot tolerate that level of truth of themselves. I mean, I think you know that. I think your life has probably been littered with people who, about whom you realised probably quite quickly that there was no self-awareness. They couldn't tolerate levels of truth about themselves, certainly nothing that challenged their ego. And so you've had to put some distance between you and them. Look here, we've got that Two of Cups showing up on its side. Now the Two of Cups is about partnership, it's about intimacy, it's about people with shared goals and visions for the future. So it's a kind of alignment between people. We're not seeing that here. We're seeing some aspect of it, but not a full acceptance, such that you could speak the truth to someone. Right? Tell the truth, but tell it slant. I think the worst thing that could possibly happen here would be you would give people the whole truth and they would shut down in the face of it. This Eight of Wands here, although it's a card of acceleration and amplification, it is actually pointing towards the horizon. Like, this is a long, slow, drawn-out process. We can't do it all at once. And so, as tedious as it is, Scorpio, you're going to have to pace yourself a little bit, because it's going to take masses some time to catch up with where you have been for the longest time. But let's come back to the teacher, the leader, the guide, right? There's something different about you. That's why you're here. That's why you have this skill set. That's why you have the ability to tell the truth, albeit you're going to have to tell it slant. It's fascinating. So when we come to what story is closing out, what narrative is ending, what set of circumstances are finished, there's some interesting topsy-turvy energy here, somewhat. Because the Hierophant reverse is society flipped on its head. It's hierarchies flipped on their head. It's structure and stability flipped over so that structure and stability exists no more. But he's showing up in the reverse, which is really interesting, because to my mind, if we take the Hierophant to be the spiritual teacher, the spiritual leader, the spiritual guide, and he is exactly that, he is all of those things, then I feel like the reversed is actually you getting to a point where you are going to stop resisting the idea that you are someone who is here for that. You know, the Three of Swords for me is a card of pain. It is a card of emotional discomfort. but it represents a planet in exaltation. It's Saturn in Libra. That's an exalted state for Saturn to be. Saturn is reality. And although reality is shifting around somewhat, turns out it's a little bit more plastic than we thought it was, right? Quite malleable. The comfort zone and the popping of the comfort zone for you actually feels like it's in accepting that your uniqueness, the things that you've learned, the ways in which you just try to fit into your skin a little bit more comfortably than you have done your entire life, is actually the reason why you are important in what happens next. Because there are skills, there are attributes, there is a how would I even describe it? There's a connection to source, spirit, God, consciousness, the creator, like whatever your terminology is, that has seen you on an accelerated timeline of experience to arrive at where you are right now in 2026, where you can be having these conversations with yourself and it actually means something. This is big stuff. This is not, oh, is he thinking about me? Does he regret dumping me? You know, does she regret not sending me a fucking Valentine's card? You know, whatever it is. I mean, this is real. This is soul level stuff. There's nothing, well, I don't think there's anything shallow about Scorpio anyway, right? You're the deepest sign in the zodiac, but this is not earthbound. This is soul work that's going on up here. And I think part of the rest of the thing that's closing out is the way in which you have felt mismatched. What do I mean? Well, we people, we oddballs, people like us, we tend to not fit into our skin properly, and then we find a way to do it. You, me, right? We kind of get to a point where we're kind of comfortable with ourselves, and that's a big deal. But there's always a sense that there's something of the outsider about us, something that's never truly accepted, something a little bit chaotic that just doesn't seem to be able to make life work in straight lines the way that other people do. I feel like the era of judging yourself for that is over. Why? Because you've been in training and now the world's about to find out what it's like when the structure that seemed to be innately understood by normal people gets pulled away. I know this all sounds a little bit like apocalyptic, and it's not apocalyptic, but we're definitely at a turning point for humanity. A huge part of that is you kind of accepting what you were put here to do, right? Accepting what makes you special, accepting what makes you unique, and the role that I feel you were always given to play. But you need to be very clearly not standing in judgment of yourself. Not judging yourself for feeling like you're not a part of anything. Like, of course you are not a part of that heaving mass. Of course you had so much potential within you that you were always being pulled this way. I've been saying a lot in the videos recently what my old coach said to me, and told everybody about this myriad times recently. You don't rise to the occasion, you sink to your level of training. And this was specifically in relation to, ring fights and stuff like that, any kind of competition you were doing. And it really stuck with me. I only ever said it once, but it really, really stuck with me. Well, shit, Scorpio, I mean, the occasion is upon us. It's here. We're not going to rise up to it. Nothing changes in you beyond where you are right now for a little bit. Obviously, the work is never done, so there's always going to be something to do later. But for now, where you are and who you are is what now needs. Sinking to the level of your training is what is going to play out over the next few months. I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about... And I have heard it from a few people in personal readings and stuff like that. Oh no, not little me. I can't possibly be here for an important reason. No, you all are here for important reasons. How many years have I been talking to you about this now, Scorpio? 2 years? Is it 2 years or is it 3 years? I genuinely can't remember at this point. I feel like the first time I brought it up, I was still living in the UK, and I'm sure that was 2023. That I was actually saying that. It's now 2026. The occasion is upon us. You don't get any more time to accustom yourself to this. It is what it is. Are you going to accept it, or are you going to sit in judgment and decide that you know better than the universe, than the creator, than God? Maybe that's the thing that you haven't quite accepted yet. Maybe that's the thing you haven't quite surrendered to, Scorpio. I don't know. I think the events of the next couple of months will show you. If you're not seeing it already, and I do think you're seeing it already anyway, to be honest. It's not what you thought it would be. Oh my goodness. I've had the cards in my hand. I've been absolutely fucking shuffling. I didn't even notice. There you are, at the bottom. And it's interesting because what's actually being asked of you is not transformation for a change. It's simply accepting that what you are is what is needed. That's absolutely riotously funny. I mean, from my perspective, I don't mean it disrespectfully. I just think I wish you could all see yourself as I see you, you know? Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it here, because I've prattled on for a little longer than I meant to. I'm going to go to the extended. Like I said, we're going to look at the potential pitfalls, traps of the shadow, that kind of thing. Need some advice. Do the oracle cards. If you want to come join me for that, links for Circle and Selfie are in the description box below. And you know I'd love to see you wherever you choose to show up. So I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.